that's a no. So
how do we make sense of this information? So we're saying, yes, we are enlightened to the fact of a high failure rate of this institution that we call marriage. But if I may speak honestly, even about myself, despite knowing that, I think to some degree we still desire and feel that, you know, at some point we need a woman, one, for aspects of having kids, to, you know, to sort of share life with to some degree. Does it mean that men and women cannot live together? Does it mean we need to relook at this institution and probably redesign it? Is this desire to have a woman valid? I mean, I know Kibe always also says, why do you need? And I like the word, underscore the word need. And why do you need to be married? Why do you need a woman? And I do agree. I think the need itself needs to be completely stripped off, so that even if you're bringing someone into your life, they're just merely a complement. They are not in any way, you know, fulfilling those terms that we hear, they are completing us, or they are my second half. You know, those terms, those are just some fairy tale.
Well, it sounds very,
yes.
sounds very logical. It sounds very nice on paper. Yes. When you say I'm only bringing someone to complement, it sounds very logical. And I'm sure some of our marriage friends were talking the very same way. Yes. Then somewhere down the line, you ended up in the 40% statistics. So the question at hand is this. You've talked of taking time to analyze the situation, study this issue. Now, I'm going to, there's a certain, I don't know, due to exposure to a lot of American systems, I like coming up with abbreviations. There's a certain abbreviation is called SED. Smart SED, Smart yes. Effort Distribution.
Okay.
Now, your effort is a finite entity. Yes. That means there's a time when your efforts will run low due to age yes. and whatnot and your abilities. Now, I want you to do some bit of quick mathematics or quick probability. Dedicate a very large chunk of your effort studying marriages and whatnot and trying to come up with what we call it, a method of solving the issue, or take that effort and pushing it into your calling. If you are into digital automation, you say, I'm going like a beast into digital automation. I'm into e-mobility, I go like a beast into e-mobility. Then we break a few rules here. You say a man does not run on hope. You can say, let me hope there's someone out there with enough effort to go and do these studies of how to analyze, and because we normally say in science, you analyze, you make recommendations, then there's a conclusion. So what conclusion are you looking for? Make a decision. You're going to analyze. You said you want to analyze this thing and studying it. What conclusion are you looking for? Because the other way, if you are doing, you're analyzing, let's say, matters, digital aspects and your careers, at least there's a conclusion. You want to be on the top of the hierarchy, cream of the cream in matters, digital automation. There's a conclusion whereby you can say, this is where I'm heading. Now, the good thing about the digital or e-mobility, in any project, there are normally fallback plans. You normally say, don't change the destination, change the route. Right? That is on the side of the digital and the e-mobility. If you are to take the route of analyzing marriages, what is the fallback plan? What if you are unable to make a meaningful conclusion? Remember, your efforts are finite. What happens? Okay, what if the study takes 15 years? You are 40, I'm 40, you are 41. 15 years of studying, you've gone like a beast into studying relationships and coming up with what we call competencies and maps and navigations. Then after 15 years, you discover, man, your efforts are run low and there's no meaningful conclusion, and it points you back to the magic figure of 40%.
No, but even with that, is it not possible? You can still get into it.
Okay.
Still the idea that it might not be a lifetime thing. Maybe it might not be till death do us apart. There are many that have gotten into it, and it has produced children that people are proud of.
Yes, very true.
And they have still maintained a union, at least for the purposes of raising the kids.
Very true.
And even many sometimes say that, once they got out of the marriage, they developed friendship with their ex-wives or partners. Actually, I don't want to use the word partners, or with their wives after they went out of the marriage institution. Because in a sense, I think the marriage institution by default seems to impose certain confines that I guess makes us not to present ourselves in an authentic fashion. So it just seems, we're just maintaining appearances.
It's superficial.
It's very superficial. So yes, we understand it has a failure rate. Are there certain things that one can do, one, to reduce on the failure rate and still get into it with still the mind that it doesn't have to be a till life do us apart kind of an arrangement? And I'm not saying this to imply that you should be in it knowing that you can always bail out any moment. But you could probably get into it being able to commit and fulfill all your responsibilities and duties as it pertains that union, and see what you make out of it. So actually, maybe my first question is, what are the things that can be done to reduce on this failure rate? It will probably not be 100%, but is it possible? And you spoke of, the smart effort distribution. Yes, as a man, your number one priority should be your purpose, whatever it is. But
maybe what we can say, okay, now that we've now committed to study this thing. Okay, out of those, okay, in general,
yes,
in the divorce rates, yes, let's say in the marriages,
yes,
what level of effort do men put into these marriages? Maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, I think from a man's perspective. So number one, we've known from statistics that the people who initially initiate the divorce are usually women. They've said actually the rate is about 80%. 80% of most of the divorces that have been initiated are initiated by women. So it is fair to say, based on that statistics alone, that men in many sense are in it for the long haul. And
so now
do everything to ensure that it's sustained. So let me also maybe backtrack a little bit. One of the reasons why, and you spoke about red pill, saying it's a form of enlightenment.
Yes.
And one, it enlightens us on the high failure rate. So when you go into it, if you ever decide to go into it, you go into it fully knowing that it could be a hit or miss.
Yes.
Many are people, those that have not been enlightened, go into it very blindly. And actually, probably that informs that failure rate aspect of it. So there's that. And I think part of also the enlightenment is understanding the human nature. We keep saying that if you're deciding to marry, would you desire that your woman be working at a corporate position? Would it be best to consider having possibly a stay-at-home woman? Because think of even some of the places that have got higher success rates of marriages. So think of the places like Muslim countries, even where they have polygamous kind of setup, where the man is married to more than one wife. Why is it that marriages and families thrive more in this kind of scenarios vis-a-vis the westernized culture that is more prevalent to a larger part of the world, in Africa, in the West, and in other places? Why is it in Asia, places like India, places like the UAE have got higher success rate? What is it? How is it that they have been able to design? And that's why I raised that issue of, do we need to think of reconfiguring marriage as we know it now to another form that could lend it to be more successful than it is, and could reduce on that, the failure rate?
We talked of, now you are doing studies on the marriage itself, and now you have come to the point that majority of the, you said you put the figure at 80%.
Yes.
Caused by women.
Yes, they're the ones who go to court to initiate it. It's not the man.
So basically, if you are now going to study the failure rate and study the causes and whatnot,
yes,
that means you are, whether by intent or otherwise, you are now studying women.
Yeah.
You are now studying women.
Yes.
Because if one party is the one who's holding the larger chunk, is actually if we have this entity called the divorce, yes, the causative agent of the divorce is the woman, because she's holding 80% of the chunk of cause. Yes. That means you are studying the woman, right?
Correct.
So that's why I was talking about smart energy, smart effort distribution. You are now, you've gone into human studies. Now, let us go back to, you've talked of the Indians and the Arabs. I think let's go back to traditional methods, whereby marriages would be a link or a way of linking two families who have similar interests. Then when their family members marry, the interest becomes stronger because they've bonded, right? And that is common among the Indians and the Arabs, because most of them tend to be wealthy. This family arranged marriage because it is arranged due to interest. Let me give a very open example. Let's say I have a son, and I'm in trucking. I have like a fleet of 100 trucks. You happen to be a truck manufacturer, a major, let's say Volvo, Mercedes. Then my daughter marries your son. When we link up, that means automatically, if before the marriage I was having a mixture of vehicles like Isuzu, Scania, Volvo, and you are selling Mercedes, that means I'll now be buying Mercedes. You, on the other hand, because this linkage, you are assured of continuous revenue, and also because now my advantage, your advantage is that you are assured of continuous revenue from me. My advantage is that I'll be getting vehicles for you as a sort of family price, family subsidy, because there's a linkage. Now that's just a random example of what we call shared interest. So these interests are what will bond, because now, let's say my son and your daughter, they get into marriage knowing very well this is why we are married. So these are the bonds. There's a very big business interest that is holding us together. I cannot mess up, because let's say if it is my son, can't afford to play rough, because dad or our family business will stop getting vehicles at a subsidized price. Your daughter will also do her best so that the marriage remains intact, so that your company is assured to some extent of a steady stream of revenue, because I'm buying vehicles from you only. Now, this is an example of interests that are binding. And these are very strong interests, because here you're talking millions of dollars.
Yes.
That's a very, very powerful interest.
Yes.
Now, if you go back to the study that we really want, what interest is binding a typical Kenyan family who is a guy is earning 100,000 per month, lives in an apartment, 30,000 is going every month to pay installment for a Toyota Premium, and the rest goes for rent, and the other one goes to pay for some very exorbitant school fees. These guys generally are no more struggling Kenyan.
Yes.
And the lady is there to be to be shielded from the economic. Maybe she's working also. But
yes.
Then what are the bonds? Now compare this situation and the one that example I've given of two families, two business entities that have bonded together. Which one is more likely to last?
Yeah, the one where there's some shared interests.
Yes. So ask yourself, what are these interests that are bringing those two entities together? Because let's face it, most of it is just flesh. You saw someone with a very big ass, you shoot your shot, it goes through, somewhere along the line she gets pregnant, and you said, okay, let's start. Does that look like an extremely shaky foundation?
100%.
And tell me if I'm wrong, if that is what most marriages in Kenya are based on.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. You know, I think we were sold this idea of love, which is, again, this mystical magic thing.
Yeah.
Love comes and goes. It's an emotion.
And it's time you first, you know, I normally say the most fruitful conversations are the ones which cause discomfort. So ask yourself, if there's one company, there are two family companies, and their kids are getting married. One company is worth $2.5 billion, another one is worth $1.6 billion. That money is so huge that the guys who are married and are impressed upon, hey guys, this union needs to work. Because if let's say you as a vehicle dealer, you are assured of, say, 500, let's say 30, let's say one truck is 20 million brand new. You are assured of me buying 50 trucks per year. You are assured of 100 million shillings per year from me. Me, on the other hand, I am assured of getting a fleet of trucks at a subsidized price, maybe 15% lower than my competitors. Is that not a very firm foundation to impress on my kids? Kids, the future of our family is here. You have to be, even the kids being brought up in such an environment know very well this institute is based more than love. This is family foundations. Maybe this is a business that has been running for 30 years. You do not want to be messed up by some silly emotional thief. But now, switch to this other guy who's netting 100,000 per month and paying for a Toyota Premium, which is being serviced with second-hand spare parts, and is only driven 3 days a month after payday. And even if you want to say love is pure, the foundation is really, really watered. It's a very swampy foundation.
Yeah. So, and I know we can't really discuss this in full in our short.
No, you can't. It's a bit of a long.
But I think one of the things, and I think we'll probably deliberate more on this, is because this is going to be an ongoing discussion. But I think definitely, you know, of course, we don't have the culture that the Asian and Arabs have in terms of arranged marriages. We probably used to have it as Africans in the ancient times. But it's probably worth looking at how that can be achieved in some form or the other in this day and age, because there are certain realities that we live in. It's very highly unlikely, but I think what you're trying to push us is the coming together of a man and a woman should never be looked at from the perspective of love. It should be probably looked at, and I don't know if I'm interpreting you correctly, you can tell me. It's almost like a business engagement that you're coming into. Like if I was to say, in our business, we do have strategic partners, people that we work with, either we bring business to them or they bring business to us. So there's some kind of a mutual engagement there. It's
Correct.
We look at it, and I don't sign agreements with everyone, but if I see there's a fit, if I see there's a two-way game, then most likely I'll be able to sign with company A over company C, depending on the benefits that we accrue from each other. So if that is there, do you agree also that this idea of love, one, as I think we've all been, we grew up with it because of the images we see on TV. Part of this programming we've had of love, of they say,
emotions.
Yeah.
Those are emotions, and emotions are driven by hormones.
Exactly.
I think it's called dopamine or something of the sort.
Dopamine, yeah, it's a hit you get in your brain. When you say there's, I feel there's a chemistry between us, and there could be something that you feel, but that in a sense dissipates.
But chemicals get confused. Chemicals get consumed and they get finished in a reaction. Once if you talk of chemistry, when someone talks about this chemistry between so and so, what if the chemical reactants get consumed? What are you left with?
Yeah. So, I think that's a good one. That's a good point. Maybe the final one we can discuss on this idea of marriage. What else do you think that really leads to this failure rate? And as part of the red pill messages, that enlightening messaging that we now have, what do you feel that the many people that go into it don't see, that if they even consider going to it, they need to probably resolve certain things? Is there anything that you see? Now we've worked out on the idea of, it should be.
I think the best way forward, being someone who was also very interested in matters automation, matters vehicles or cars or automotive industry, one of the hallmarks of automotive development is failure studies.
Okay.
Let's say a vehicle had a problem with the braking system. There's normally a recall. They study the vehicles, the braking system, see where it went wrong and perfect it. When it comes to issues like safety, you realize maybe a very high-end vehicle, it crashed, and there were quite a number of casualties, even a loss of life. What they do, they bring the vehicle which had crashed, and they do studies. So that means there is what we call failure analysis.
Yes.
So I'm not married.
Yes.
Are you married?
No, I'm not married.
So the best way forward, if we are to now say we are people who believe in the institute of marriage the same way a manufacturer believes in his product. Let's say I'm making a vehicle and I believe in it. If it fails, I recall it, I do analysis. I think we get a gathering of divorcees. Now we get direct data. No, here we are speculating. Maybe it seems these are the figures, these are the statistics. Now let's collect the members of those statistics. Collect 20 divorcees. If possible, put them in cages to avoid them from killing each other, because some of the separations are really some sort of a commando style situation. So I may suggest you put on some safeguards. Somebody may come with a kitchen knife in the, I don't want to say handbag, because if I say kitchen knife in the handbag, I'll say I'm being a feminist, a sojournist. Okay, someone will come with the kitchen knife in the handbag, then the man will come a pistol in his pocket. So you may need to put some safeguards, but all in all, if now we say we want to study this situation, then study the actual failures. because analysis of data and the statistics, which has been going on for many, many years. We've Googled until bundles are finished. Now collect these people. Collect like 50 married couples from every region. Maybe you can start with the urban areas, then go to rural areas. Then you start breaking this. You look at the what you call the common denominators in these marriage. You are now talking of actual divorcees who will meet face to face. We are now moving away from the analysis and the Googling and the according, because most people say, including me, according to Google, according to a research I did, now if we really are serious, collect divorcees, real people, even among your friends who marriages are really gone sideways, sit them down, collect data from both sides and work on that. Otherwise, if this line you are taking, if you are to solve it, you see you are working with a lot of maybes, no tangible data. Get divorces. Like if I'm manufacturing a vehicle, it has a high failure rate, and I'm only stuck on the graphs and the charts. I'm not collecting the wreckage to see what's wrong with this vehicle. I'll keep on producing more and more shambolic products. The same way you go to marriage counselor and premarital counseling, and that premarital counseling channel, 50 divorcees have passed there.
You know what, I like that idea, and that's a good thing of talking to men, and particularly people in your profession as engineers, because you know we work with very practical stuff. If a car crashes and the cause was the brakes, let's research on that. I mean, the other industry which is also very invested in studying failure rates and safety rates is the aviation sector, and that's why it's the most safest mode of transport in the entire world.
When you are studying, look beyond the graphs and charts, get the wreckage. And the wreckage in this matter is the divorcees. Actually, those are the wreckages. That is the wreckage of the marriage aircraft. Get that wreckage, study it.
So my final question to you on this one, do you think, and this is a yes or no, do you think a red-pilled person can get married? Or do you still, so it will be either yes, no, it's still an open question.
I really don't like yes, no. Can I use probabilities?
Yes.
Over 90%, he won't get married.
He won't get married. Okay.
Because you remember, if you follow our sessions in the Morning Wood show, and you know that shows are very fun. How do you call a show Morning Wood show? Anyway, Morning Wood. Then we have the YouTube sessions. If you recall, last year you were talking of getting a 19 to 21-year-old kid, lady to marry, right?
Yes.
Now we move.
That's a woman.
A woman, sorry. So we are talking of getting someone who is 19 to 21. Yes. Now we are saying avoid it.
100%?
I don't want to give percentages, my friend. I don't.
I mean,
what I'm saying, if you really want the probability of a red pill person, unless you are not cognizant of this data, even me, you see, this thing is flesh. Is an issue of the flesh. That picture of a lady in a very nice flowered dress and two little cute brown skinned kids, you in your VX driving to church, it's fantastic. It's beautiful, but it's being knocked to the floor with the facts.
No, I agree, but partly I'm also split on that, because I'm thinking, you know, saying avoiding it 100% or completely is like you're sort of running away from a problem.
That's why I said.
I mean, the aviation sector, as we know it, did not become as good as it is because the manufacturers dug their heads in under the sun and forgot about it.
They so we're no longer flying anymore.
So my thinking, and that's why I said we definitely will be able to brainstorm this to the end. But where I want to leave it at, I think, at least from my perspective, is yes, it does. It's definitely not a sure thing. But I would want to look at areas where possibly before I get into it, if I ever decide to get into it, I'll definitely need to plug to avoid it. But it's not definitely going, even with that, it will not mean that it might work, it might not, but reduce the likelihood of any failure if possible.
That's why you've made a very good reference to aviation industry.
Yes.
They do study wreckages. They do take that black box and they study it.
Yes.
Right now, we are a couple of bachelors looking at charts, but we have gone nowhere near the wreckage. So if, say, we want to really avoid this problem, because if you look at how men end up after divorce, it's really a very sad thing. Sorry. Would say
no,
let's study the wreckage.
Let's study the wreckage. And the wreckage in this case are those divorcees. They need to come together.
We can get a space where we now have a full team of minimum 10 divorcees, and to be fair, divorcees from both genders.
Yes.
They give their take, because right now we are stuck on charts and statistics, and the wreckage is somewhere in the bush. We don't even want to go near it. We are told the crash landed in Amboseli, and you are here at the Hilton drinking tea while studying some theoretical graphs here. You are not going to solve anything. So red pill and marriage probability is extremely low.
It's very low.